Hey everybody, welcome into ESPN FC Live alongside Janusz Michallik. I'm Dalen Cuff. Great to be with you again, Janusz. We're with you on ESPN FC Live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, 12 o'clock Eastern Time. We got a big show for you coming up. We got their Klassiker and Bundesliga, Bayern and Dortmund. We will talk about that coming up Saturday, 1:30 Eastern on ESPN's platforms. Newcastle, Arsenal, big game of the weekend in the Premier League. Arsenal plays West Ham in a matter of hours in a Carabao Cup game, but we will spin it forward. But where we start, Janusz, we'll actually let the FC guys weigh in first, and we'll kind of tag in after. We're going to celebrate Messi and his 8th Ballon d'Or. We're also going to debate if that was the right decision as well. But first, there was quite a heated discussion on the FC crew. Take a listen.
Erling Haaland in a poor way whatsoever is just a celebration and an elevation of Lionel Messi and certainly his performance in the World Cup. And I'm with Xhaka. People will have their own personal opinions as to what the importance of the World Cup is. To me, it still remains the most important competition in the world. Much more important to me anyways than Champions League and a league campaign as well. And so when it comes to this particular award, if you need to separate great from great, which is what we're doing here, we're trying to separate great from great, I think you need to find some reasons. And the reasons to me is very clear. Lionel Messi was the best player for the best team in the World Cup, and therefore he deserves this award.
Mario.
No, I agree. You guys highlighted already. I think when we start the game of playing football, everybody can tell you so many different things. But one thing is the get-go that we all focus on as individuals is representing your country. When you represent your country, you wear a jersey. We sometimes make jokes about it and say it weighs a lot. It's very heavy. Why is it heavy? Because you have the pride of the country on your shoulders. And I think when you go to the Cup set you apart in winning that. So when you start your football career, you think only about that. For the ones who didn't win it, including myself, I dream of playing for my national team and then winning it. He won it. And that does not take away from guys, I repeat it, Champions League and all them are great tournaments, and you want to be part of that. Because I think any footballer, you understand, when you experience that, all tunes that you hear at the start of the Champions League, but when you hear the national anthem of your country play, I can tell you get chills through your body because you know you have to perform. And he won it. And that's why he's one of the greatest. Or the greatest at the moment, because there's no one else that did what he did.
Spoiler alert, he won't win it next year.
Oh.
So who will? That's the question. That's an exciting question already. Like. So we've got 3 men, we reckon. Mbappe, Haaland, Bellingham. Remember, it's the Euros in the summer. So is it just a case as whichever country wins the Euros, if it's France or England, that will define who will pick it up, do you think, Jules?
It will have a big impact, of course, like the boys said, it was with the World Cup. But again, let's remind everyone that this is not an award for who the best player at the World Cup was over 7 games. This is an award over the whole calendar year. So from the start of 2023 until the end of the votes in October, sometime in October. This is not just on the World Cup. If you've been the best at the World Cup over 7 games, that doesn't give you the Ballon d'Or. Same with the Euros, same with the Olympics, same with anything you want, really. So this has to be clear. Messi won it. He's the greatest player of all time. We know that. There will be a debate over is winning the World Cup and being very good on those 7 games better or harder than over the whole season in a league or in a Champions League campaign. This is a very interesting debate, I think. And for next year, of course, the Euros would have a big impact on it. If Bellingham wins it and shines with England, if Mbappe wins it, if Musiala wins it with Germany, I don't know, whoever does, a Spanish player, whatever, it will have a big impact. But let's not forget as well that the whole calendar year matters very much as well in the way people are voting for the Ballon d'Or.
Doesn't matter that much, Jules, does it?
Yeah, Jules.
I think it really matters that much.
But hey, was Messi very good in Paris? Be honest.
Jules has forgotten that it existed.
You mean outside of the World Cup?
Yeah, outside of
No,
Messi is the
let's be
greatest
honest.
player. But in Paris, what we have seen over the whole time of Messi in Paris is not the shine that we are used to seeing of him. Because in Barcelona, what he did, boom. No one can talk about that. What he did for Argentina at the World Cup, no one can talk about it. But in Paris, he said it himself too. It was difficult for him.
No, for sure. But listen, I'm well done to Messi. He deserves it. Like Eden Hazard said, it's logical that he wins it. No problem. But if you just take the World Cup just for a moment, just slightly outside of it, and it's very important because it's the World Cup, of course. But if you take it out, Erling Haaland had a better year than Lionel Messi, overall. Even when Messi was in Paris, and certainly more than since Messi went to America, to Inter Miami. There's just no doubt. Of course, the 7 games in the World Cup, a competition that Haaland didn't play in, makes a big difference. Of course it does. But I was just saying that the Ballon d'Or is also on the whole calendar year, not just, this is not the best player of the World Cup award. It's not that. So in a way, Ali is saying he was the best player for the best team at the World Cup, so he deserved the Ballon d'Or. This is not true. He didn't win the Ballon d'Or just because of the 7 games in the World Cup. Or certainly he should not win it, because again, it's on the whole calendar year.
Okay, Janusz, I'll just open it up to you. Where do you stand on that debate?
I mean, look, I think, Jules' argument is good. I mean, if not now, when for Haaland, right? When you win a treble and you score that many goals, what needs to happen? As we know that he will not win the World Cup probably in his career, right? It's pretty safe bet. What I would disagree is that let's take, for me personally, let's take the World Cup slightly away. I'm just not having it, and there are times where I could, but not this sort of World Cup that Leo Messi had. Not this sort of pressure that's been over his on his shoulders throughout his career. The comparison to Diego Armando Maradona, the comparison to everybody, even Pelé, if you want to do it. The pressure was so immense for him. And this wasn't just any World Cup. I mean, here's a man with all of that, right? Who scored twice in group stages, who scored in every knockout stages, and who scored in the final. This wasn't just any World Cup. For me, a World Cup is a defining moment, just like some of my other colleagues have said. But this was, I can't even imagine, that pressure, knowing also that this will likely be his last World Cup. If he didn't do it then, and his numbers weren't all that bad, it's 1 trophies, other than the World Cup as well. And I look back at Robert Lewandowski, because that season, remember, was cut short. He would have probably won it. He didn't. Then I think in 2020, obviously there was no Ballon d'Or. And then after that, Lewandowski scored like 62 goals on that season, more even than Haaland. And he's lost by, 20, 30 votes to Messi as well. So, look, this has been around in this. But overall, in the end, I still add to it for me, because there are no defined rules really in this Ballon d'Or. For me, I just have to look at him as a player, and he's just a better player. I know people will push back. It's about the trophies, what you win. I get it, but there's been a lot of great goal scorers, For me, it has to be more. Be more. And for those that say that it's not just about the 7 games in the World Cup, I can almost get it, with the exception of this particular World Cup, because I don't know if we're going to see another one for many, many years like it, with the sort of pressure. The greatest player already before that, he would have been considered probably 2 as one of the greatest, but he just defined himself in that one. And he says, you know what? There's only 3 or 4 players in his and my lifetime, and yours, I bet, that are going to be like that. Where you go by one name. You go Pelé, Messi, Maradona, and Cristiano. I hope he goes by that, because Ronaldo,
tough.
You can always have a little bit of an argument there, right? It doesn't like just Ronaldo, So I think that was a defining moment to crown a legend, maybe of legends. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't look at that as just 7 days and just another World Cup. It wasn't.
I agree with you. And here's what I think. This is a little bit of sports is a reflection of society. And in society right now, everything is binary. You got to be one side or the other, left, right, blue, red, blah, blah, blah. Both things can be true at the same time. Both guys, the caption says, did Messi deserve to win? Yeah, he deserved to win. Did Haaland deserve to win? Yeah, he deserved to win. So let's go into the structure of how they actually vote on these things. It's 1 journalist per country for, I think, like 100 or some countries. What factors into that, when one person's representing the entire nation, essentially, what footballing journalists think about this, nostalgia plays a factor. Your heart and emotion plays a factor. We're human beings. This is seeing Messi at that level win that World Cup, to your point, in that final, which I think I'd argue that's the greatest sporting event I've ever seen that final in that way, and for his team to prevail in the end, given how that all went down, for him to win that carries a lot of weight. But to your point, 38 goals, 25 assists, 2 other trophies that weren't the World Cup. If he didn't play the rest of the season for PSG, and then people wouldn't care. Like it wouldn't matter. Now I know he had issues there, and some of those trophies are about Inter Miami, and those skills can be written off as well. But he still was playing the game and playing at a very high level. Won in a top 5 league in Europe, also in the Champions League. Won in the MLS, which is obviously a step down. But the World Cup was the difference maker, and they both can be deserving. And I think in the end, it is a heart-wrenching piece of it. There's an element of us being humans that want to see Messi get that ball for the 8th time and walk off. And that's what happened. And I do think if Haaland was a little older, if Haaland was 31 at the end of his career and put up all these crazy numbers, it's a different discussion. He's 23, I think. So he's going to be there. And I would pose that next thought to you there, as Dan threw this out there. Bellingham, Mbappe, and Haaland, all with similar odds as you saw, between 3.5 to 4.5 to win it this upcoming year. Is this the passing of the torch to those 3, at least to this next year? And then, I mean, with all those guys sub 25, it could be the foreseeable future.
I think so, because I think, they're if you look at them, they're superstars in the making. The differentiation will be, because in the past, it was always Cristiano, Messi. I mean, there was an unbelievable history. There were legends. So part of it is like being a veteran. You've done it already. You've won it so many times, and yet you continue doing it. So I think when you vote, you go with that in the back of your mind. Oh, well, this is Messi. This is Cristiano. Whereas here, it's a clean slate, isn't it, to some degree, because you have all these young players, because they're all very, very young. And I think, obviously, there's no World Cup, although I do think that the European Championship may have to decide about this, because look at the start they're already in. Look at the seasons they're having. They're all scoring at will, 10, 11, 12 goals. Everybody's there, right? I mean, we'll get to him in a second, I suppose. But, I don't know if I put Harry Kane in there, but I wouldn't dismiss him. I would also probably, an outside looking in, because the season he's having and because of what's ahead, I think Lautaro Martinez may be within the shout there, because he's having a great great season. I think Inter will be in the conversation for the Champions League, just like they were last season. And isn't there Copa America next summer too?
Yes, it's in the States too.
So Lautaro could, we're talking European, let's not be European snobs here for a second, just for a second. But this would be big if Argentina wins this, and say Lautaro Martinez, with the help of Leo Messi, is the star of that tournament. So I would throw him in there. But I think, just looking at that, I think, again, I feel for Haaland. Maybe it may be decided between Kylian Mbappe and Jude Bellingham, because you have to feel that both France and England again will be kind of favorites to win the European Championships. But I think if Erling Haaland repeats or is very, very close, say they win the Premier League and they win the Champions League, and he continues to give the numbers, I think for what didn't happen this year, it'll happen to him next year.
That's right. I mean, we're having this discussion in November 1st, and how the season plays out has a huge impact on this. And also, expectations of your individual club and how you perform in league matter. PSG is expected to win the title, and that they almost don't get credit for that. Same thing with Bayern. Bayern's expected, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Bayern's expected to win the Bundesliga for the 55th straight time, it feels like. They don't almost get credit for that. But if they make a run to a Champions League final, if they win the Champions League, and to your point, if Kane is outstanding within that run and in the run in league play, this whole equation is different. Mbappe the same way at PSG. I don't think that's exactly going to happen with them in the Champions League, but I think those same things play out, those factors. And where Haaland has the biggest upside, we're not playing in a European Championship. Norway, I don't think it's completely eliminated, but it's very, very unlikely that they're going to make this, is the fact that they do play in the best league, the most difficult watched league in the world. And if they have a fight down the stretch with Arsenal and or Liverpool, and maybe even Spurs, and they prevail, and he is outstanding down that run again like they were last year, and they run to the Champions League final and win that again, that I think can carry enough weight to outsize not playing in in the Euros or in the Copa America, given how everything has to play out. All those factors, I think, come into this and give us a real context, whereas right now we don't have that context.
No, but what we have is is a fresh start, that clean slate I was talking about, because
Yeah.
this is outstanding. Look, I mean, it's far, because we've been saying now for a number of years, we're saying, my goodness, what's it going to be now with Ronaldo and Messi kind of leaving?
Giannis, it's been 15 years, I think, 16 years between one of the two.
Right.
It's wild.
And but history teaches us that there's always somebody, and there was Pele and Diego Armando Maradona. I mean, Johan Cruyff was always a player that probably didn't get enough credit. I mean, how do you look at Beckenbauer as a defender? I mean, he was a massive name, great player, but as we know, defenders have a hard time in winning these sort of awards as well. So I think this is positive. This is great because, I don't know if they're going to reach the heights of, say, Cristiano Ronaldo and Leo Messi. But if you look at Mbappe right now, for me, he's the best player at this moment. And again, that's why I look at it differently. Titles are important, and that's why I said I would have been okay if Haaland wanted, because he certainly proved it, winning these amazing titles and scoring and playing an important role. Remember, I mean, he was already doing that in the Bundesliga as even younger player than he already is, scoring at will. So this is not just a one-season wonder for him. But I look at somebody like Kylian Mbappe and think to myself, I have to pick one player right now, and you're not including, of course, the Messis or Messis and Ronaldos. I just think I go with Kylian Mbappe. So we'll see what happens.
I can't really argue with that because, again, if what you have done matters, he's already won a World Cup. It wasn't the past one; it was the one before that. He's already played in the Champions League final. He's been in another World Cup final. So Mbappe, he's been integral.
This is a young man that scored a hat trick in a World Cup of said World Cup that Leo Messi did amazing things in those 7 games, right? So I think, as you've said, he's already won a lot of trophies. He's going to continue to do it, and it's just a question of, how he navigates his career, right? Because his next step is going to be super important. Because if he does go, say, to Real Madrid, that in itself guarantees you the highest titles. The Champions League that evades him right now. So. Yeah, I mean, we'll be here talking about Haaland, Mbappe, and Jude Bellingham, who's is already at that big club and seems to be able to carry the weight of that shirt.
Yeah, no doubt. He did it again this weekend to
Vinny's
shot.
Give him a shout, Vinny. So
Vinny's in the yes. Yeah, then these guys again are all very young players. Thank you to Jude Bellingham for the late goal. That paid me quite a bit of money there. On that note, let's go to Der Klassiker and take a look at Dortmund and Bayern. We got so many great matches coming up across ESPN Plus this week. You got Carabao Cup today. You've got FA Cup at the weekend with Wrexham. Of course, you've got the Bundesliga match coming up. Dortmund hosting Bayern. Dortmund is big underdogs here. They are plus 290, so you bet $100 to win 290. Bayern, big favorites. You have to bet $145 just to win 100. They are minus 145. I would just ask you about the matchup. We'll come back to that in a second, because we call this Der Klassiker as a name for a reason, because it's supposed to be the 2 biggest clubs in Germany, supposed to be fighting for the title. That said, neither of them are in first. Dortmund's currently in 4th right now. Are they really even the biggest challenger to Bayern, given where Leverkusen is and the fact Leverkusen's already drawn Bayern this year? Like, how do you even look at this matchup relation to the table?
Well, I mean, it is important because it's a massive matchup historically. It almost, I mean, at this early in the stage, it doesn't really matter, because what it's going to do, the winner, let's just assume that there's going to be a winner. I mean, the boost you get from that, right? You can see that Bayern Munich are ticking up. You see that Dortmund is starting to kind of, be in good places as you look at, we'll get to Bayer Leverkusen in a second, but things are getting a little bit better. So it's going to be a massive boost. And so it is going to be important. I think for me, Bayern Munich are favorites here. I mean, Bayern Munich are doing what you think they should be doing. There's been so many questions about him, because the reason for that is not necessarily because of the player or the talent. It's funny how we're kind of down on Bayern Munich, and it may be because the inconsistencies in terms of managers coming and going. That's not usual. Usually when Bayern are firing on all cylinders, you kind of clearly see a manager that really is beyond question. And that hasn't happened as of late. I think that lucky finish, because Borussia Dortmund gave it away. And I think the reason that Dortmund had such a slow start may be part of that, because that disappointment for a lot of people had to be massive. We saw what it did to Marco Reus. I mean, Marco Reus came in the summer and said, I don't want to be the captain. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I know for sure, what happened last season was the reason, but it's a safe bet. Somebody like Hummels, I mean, great servant, even though he's been at Bayern Munich, but how much did he want it to win as part of his club? Because let's be honest here, Borussia Dortmund is Hummels' club. So that was such a blow that you could see they didn't recover from yet. Terzic, there's still question marks around him, still very young manager, but tactically there are some questions there. This is going to be massive. And of course, right now, I think the second part of your question is, are they even favorites? As it stands right now, you can't dismiss Leverkusen. Xabi Alonso is doing a tremendous job. This team is solid defensively, well balanced, which of course the Leverkusen or the disliked, I don't want to say hated because I don't like that word, but disliked Neverkusen, it seems to be gone. It's still to be confirmed, but they don't go from the ups and downs where Leverkusen could beat anybody in their time in the Champions League and lose to the last team in the Bundesliga from time to time, or win 6-0 and then lose 6-2 type of thing. So they have the players, they have a manager, they have a clear way of playing, and I think there's no coincidence that Leverkusen are at the top of the Bundesliga.
And remember, folks, they went to Bayern and drew, and that's the 2 points difference right now. So they kind of hold some cards in there. Yes,
and Leipzig are within a shout, even though the players that they've lost, not many clubs like them that they can kind of rejig themselves. On one hand, you lose Nkunku, and then Openda comes in, and as if nothing has changed.
They've been remarkable in that way. Obviously, Dortmund's been great at that for years too, is to sell and to let some of your best players go and then continue to repopulate with really talented players. The recruitment at both those clubs is great. Leipzig also is the other team that drew Bayern, to your point. So this is going to be, I think what's exciting about the Bundesliga this year is it seems like it's going to be a race. And last year was a race to the very end and a shocking result at the very end. But the years prior to that, we were struggling to find competition for Bayern. Doesn't seem to be the case here. Also, I think defensively, they've been much better. The last 3 league games, they've given up 1 goal. I think that's helped them turn the tide a little bit to be a little better, a little more sound defensively, Munich. But also, obviously, Kane's been outstanding. I mean, Kane's been ridiculous in terms of he scored a goal from 60 yards out. They blast Darmstadt 8-0. But when you look at Harry Kane fitting into that team, what do you think has been so critical to his success and also the success of the team, especially going forward?
Nothing other than well, I mean, let me, define that, obviously. I mean, so often we look at transfers and we wonder if they're right for the team and for the player. And this was screaming. You didn't have to know much about football other than over decades. There's only one way that Bayern Munich has played that has been incredibly successful. Same way of playing with same number 9. There's so many great number 9s that I already forgot that they've had over decades, right? Going all the way back to Gerd Müller, right? But obviously, when Lewandowski left, there was a hole. I mean, I think Choupo-Moting has done a good job, but we all knew that this was not the profile of a striker. And really, all those years that Lewandowski has benefited, not just from Thomas Müller, because he specifically looked for him, but, the likes of Robben and Ribéry. And now you have Leroy Sané, who's, back. I don't even want to say back to his best. I mean,
this is his best.
This sort of Leroy Sané, I'm sure Pep Guardiola is saying, where was he? I would never sold him if he was, not only playing like that, but working as hard as he does. And maybe, some of the stuff off the pitch is better for him as well. He's confident. He's happy. So you have 2 wingers that will deliver you not only goals themselves, as Robben and Ribéry and many before them have done, but so you have Harry Kane, who's going to get the service, who doesn't have to worry about dropping back in the midfield and almost create goals for himself like he did. How many goals have we seen where he kind of dropped in the midfield with Spurs, played it, a beautiful ball wide, knowing, just with the right pace so he can get up there in the penalty area and finish the cross that ultimately came. So this is just perfect for everybody. We shouldn't be surprised. And that's why I continue to talk about Harry Kane, because if you think that, Erling Haaland's being left out, Ballon d'Or, but all this, I mean, look at Harry Kane. I mean, how many more consistent strikers over the last decade have we had? Him and Lewandowski, and then nobody. Lionel Messi, of course, and Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, he's quietly doing an incredible job, because even last season, I mean, what did he have in the Premier League? Just a few goals short, less than Erling Haaland. And look at the teams that both played. And he's going to be a forgotten man. No matter what he does, he is going to be a forgotten man. And all these trophies that people are giving out left or right. So in a way, I think we all knew it was going to happen. We may have had doubts, moving countries, moving leagues. How is he going to adapt? Well, the answer is for all of us to see. Again, the best. I mean, he's amongst the best out there right now.
He is, and I think he's been a forgotten man partially because the team he's played on are not winning trophies. But this was going to be amended this year, potentially. Like I was saying before, there's going to be a race in the Bundesliga, and if they win that race, that's his trophy. The Champions League, if they win that, I think that'll put him in the front of people's minds more so, and especially doing it on that stage. And then you compound that with another international tournament, which people have seen him do it already, with the 3 lions on his chest. But if they do that and win the thing, like he has the year set up to really, to your point, forget being the forgotten man, to be the man and going back to the Ballon d'Or conversation.
That's why, going back to our first conversation, forget about all these young whippersnappers for a second, because, I'm happy that I know he's going to be in the conversation for it, right? Because the trophy, I think, again, Bayern, will win a trophy. I mean, they are the favorites still for me to win it. You've mentioned defensively. Let's not forget that Manuel Neuer is back. I don't care if he's 36 or 37, but clearly everybody feels better that he's in the back and not Ulreich. With all the respect I give him, it changes things, even if it's psychologically. It definitely changes things that he's in the back there. Obviously, his ability to play with his feet, still probably he hasn't forgotten that, I suppose. Small sample right now because he's just come back. Mm-hmm. But England, obviously, just like Jude Bellingham, in that conversation. So Harry Kane very much will be and should be in the conversation. And that in itself, I think there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to be happy about that. Even if everybody puts away their bias, they're going to say, you know what? Maybe this is the time for Harry Kane that he's in that discussion. And I think he will be in that discussion.
Yeah, I actually hope he will be too, and I believe he will be as well. Real quick, just give me a prediction on the match. Bayern Dortmund winner. What do you got?
I got Bayern 3-1.
Yeah, I'm actually going Bayern 2-1, but I think they're gonna get it done on the road. Let's move on to Newcastle Arsenal, the big game of the weekend in the Premier League. Newcastle coming off a draw last week against Wolves weekend, and then obviously midweek, shocking loss to Dortmund at home in the Champions League, put them in a little bit of a bind there in a very difficult group. Arsenal smashed Sheffield United 5-0. Both teams injury issues. When you look at this matchup, Newcastle right now trying to get back into that top 4. They're outside of it right now. Arsenal trying to keep pace with Spurs and City. What do you make of the matchup?
Well, it's an interesting one. There's been some doozies out there, right? I mean, there's a 4-4. I'm getting old. I'm bad with numbers, but they've been tremendous. 2 attacking teams with 2 great managers who continue to prove, or I don't know, prove, but live by their principles. That's what I love about both of them. Mikel Arteta, it took him a while, but I think we remember him as a player. We knew where he's learned. I suppose I'm not going to just sit here and say it's all about Pep, but obviously when he came over to Arsenal, he wanted to keep the identity of Arsenal under Arsene Wenger and his own identity of attacking football, even though it's always risky for a young manager. Sometimes I have to imagine that even if you want to play good football, you say to yourself, I don't know, that's a big club. Let me stay here for a while. And I don't know how far he was from being sacked, but for a while there, right? I mean, 2 8th place finishes, you could have doubts about him. And then Eddie Howe, even more respect in so many ways, because he showed that at a modest club in Bournemouth how good a football he's played, came to Newcastle, hasn't changed, and he continues to build that on. So I think I hope it's going to be an open game in a way. Look, the one funny thing, and it was in the back of my head, and I couldn't get rid of that thought, because in a way there's always we have found a way since Wenger left, or some of the lean Arsenal years to always doubt Arsenal in some way. And mostly it was a character and the spine. And don't you get a feeling that that's all gone? And then it came out, well, what if Gabriel Jesus is not available? Which he may not be again, right? I think he's not. And then what if Martinelli's not there? Well, what if Saka is not there? And somehow all these players have been out, some for longer, some for shorter. And Arsenal keep on ticking. And there are those tests in between. Manchester City, massive test. Character, boom, won it. Mm-hmm. Because they've never, Mikel Arteta has never beaten Manchester City. Well, he's done it. Then Chelsea was maybe even a bigger test than that because they were horrible, absolutely horrible. It looked like Chelsea were going to, win it 3 or 4-0, and then they came back in that one. And obviously Chelsea contributed to that, but you have to give credit to Mikel Arteta and Arsenal as well. So I just think that Newcastle, obviously home, it's a big one. I still don't like defensively. They've been very good. They just conceded first corner goal in the last game because they were perfect in that. We all know set pieces are strong on both ends of the ball for them. I still don't like that back four without Botman. And now he's re-injured himself, which is big because it's not going to be just that, but, maybe going forward, we'll see for how long as well. I think this is going to be one of those 2-2 games. Somewhere in there. It's hard for me to separate the two because obviously going away to Newcastle is not an easy task. So I'm going to sit on the fence in a way, which, by the way, I don't think is going to hurt either team if it ended that way. So I'm going 2-2.
Okay, good. Real quick, what you said about the spine of Arsenal, I honestly think it was last year, the game against United. They were down in that match, and this is United not in the current construct, folks. United was looking better there. I think they just won the Carabao Cup. It looked like they were turning things around. They were down in that match, and I almost expected, and as an Arsenal fan, they're going to win this game. And those guys went out and won that game 3-2 in a critical match where they were still holding on to the lead in the Premier League. Since then, to your point, they've shown the grit, the toughness, the mental toughness, too, to win these games. Whether it's City when you don't play your best and you find a way to get a result over City. As you said, Chelsea, they were terrible. I felt like they stole something. Just walking away with the point was a complete robbery. It was a smash and grab job. Take it. That never happened 18 months ago. That they're losing all 3 of those matches. So they have gone past that. They're past that. The issue now, I think, is health and going on the road in a very tough environment without your best players. And can you perform to win the game there? And if you look at the odds, Newcastle is the underdog, plus 185. So you bet 100 to win 185 on the home team. Arsenal, you bet 100 to win 150. They're plus 150. I think you're right. I think we're looking at a draw. But I think both teams may struggle to score. Arsenal is much better defensively away from home. At least they have been in the last 18 months or so. I think this is going to be a 1-1 match. I think you look at the numbers, too, in the over-under of 2.5 goals. There's some juice to the under. I think this is going to be a tight game. Might come down to set pieces. Maybe not a ton of opportunities. I hope that's not the case. But with a lot of injuries on both sides of the ball, I think we're looking at a little bit different matchup than we may have thought before the season started.
Well, the midweek games now and the Cup as well. So, I mean, I wish we had this conversation because as we speak, right? I mean, today is West Ham.
Arsenal plays the Hammers in about 3.5 hours here on ESPN Plus.
So there's going to be a rotation, but there's some key moments, right? I mean, Declan Rice is going back to his old club. I don't suspect that he's going to start, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I hope he doesn't. That's easy.
No, but I do hope that he plays. Because
he's just been so good. I can't. If he gets hurt, I feel like I can't. I emotionally can't handle that.
That's what I mean. We have to wait and see because that massive game in the Premier League, in a way, takes precedence. But does it? All these competition, even look at the pressure. Even Mikel Arteta will look at it. You know what? I mean, we need to be winning trophies.
We need to win stuff.
Because you mentioned City the way it is, and I mean, I don't think we can sit here and say, you know what? Yeah, Arsenal are one of the favorites to win the Champions League. So the progress is there, but at the end of the season, if you Arsenal Mikel Arteta with all the good things, with a lot of the noise gone, because for me, there was always noise. I've always had something smart or silly or outright stupid to say about Arsenal, or maybe, no, I should say negative to kind of doubt them. A lot of the noise is gone. But at the end of the day, you want to be winning something. So you look at this cup and you say to yourself, well, why not? Can we possibly? But so, you know, Declan Rice, I hope he puts him out there, because I'd be shocked. Standing ovation, because what he's done as a captain for West Ham over the years, outstanding. I mean, first trophy for West Ham in, I don't know, 50 some year, whatever it was. I mean, the amount of money they got for him as well. And now he's immediately contributing in an incredible way to Arsenal. I just hope that he goes out there, even if it's for a minute, for the Hammers, for their fans to appreciate him, which I'm sure is going to happen. I'd be shocked if he didn't get a standing ovation. I'd be actually quite disappointed if he didn't get a true standing ovation.
Well, find out today on ESPN Plus. They have that game as well as some other Carabao Cup games. Their Klassiker 1:30 Saturday on ESPN Plus as well, and a lot of action all weekend. Janusz, great to be with you here on ESPN FC Live. We'll see you next time, Friday, noon Eastern. We out.
Cheers, my friend.